You let the police interrogate your mom? I know this one's gonna be about boundaries, but like, it's your mom. Oh my gosh, I don't even know what to guess about this one. Because like, I feel like there are people who are like, I don't care if my mom like unalives somebody, like I'm protecting my mom. But then other people like, there are lines that parents can cross, you know? With boundaries, I don't know what this one's gonna be. Happy Apple Picking Day! If you want a chance for your story to be featured on Am I the Bad Apple, you can send it to my subreddit, r/Am I the Bad Apple. Found on Reddit, I found that a lot of people don't understand that. It's on Reddit. If you go to Reddit and type it in, that's where it is. I've seen so many comments that are like, where do we send them? It's the same place. I say it every week. And as a quick reminder, we all come from different branches of the apple tree. Therefore, we're all gonna have different experiences, and those experiences are gonna shape our perspectives and opinions. Those experiences are also gonna shape how we might hear the stories and what we might take from them. And that happens, and that's okay. And sometimes we love to talk about it in the comment section. And sometimes you might change somebody's mind, and sometimes someone might change your mind. And sometimes someone's mind changes. And that happens, and that is okay. What we're not gonna do is act rude, okay? That's a no-go in this community. So without further ado, let's get started with this week's episode of Am I the Bad Apple? Let's go apple picking. Apple number 1. Am I the bad apple for ruining my own birthday? I, 16 male, am the second oldest of 4. My older sister, 18, has Down syndrome and is medically complex with very complex needs. She also has severe food allergies. My younger sister, 13, is also on the spectrum and has her own very serious food allergies. Then we have my younger brother, 11, who has a lot of medical issues. Again, many relating to food and allergies. We always try to make sure places are accessible as possible for them, especially because my older sister's in a wheelchair. Having so many siblings with so many extra needs does mean that I tend to be overlooked. It means I have to make a lot of sacrifices, and there's a lot of accommodations, and some things just won't work out for me because my siblings' needs tend to come first. I'm used to not getting my favorite dishes, and I'm used to not getting to pick my own favorite vacation spots because my parents don't think it's as accessible enough or autism friendly enough. My siblings always get their first choice for everything, but never me. After a while, it's just kind of become something that I've expected. I'm lucky that my maternal grandparents try to make up for it when they can, and my best friend's family also tries to include me in all of their family stuff because they know I never really get to do what I want. My favorite restaurant in the city is this Indian place. My favorite dish is the samosas. I never get to eat there with my parents and siblings, and we never get takeout from there because it's not deemed as safe for all my siblings. Sometimes that stinks, especially when my parents proclaim they always get their kids' favorite food from their favorite restaurants for birthdays each year. This year, my parents made a really big deal of me turning 16, and they told me to pick my favorite spot for us to have a family birthday dinner. This family dinner would include extended family. I told them my favorite place, the Indian place, and of course, they told me it wouldn't work. I said, okay, do you want my favorite place or a place to cater to my siblings? They said, do you not want to cater to your siblings? And I said, no, it's my birthday. I want to eat where I want to eat. They said, okay, where do you want to go then? I said, I just told you I want to go to the Indian place. They gave me one of those looks that said they'd give me more time to think about it. A couple weeks later, they asked me again, hey, where do you want to go for your birthday? And I said, I already told you. The Indian place. My answer hasn't changed. That's still my favorite restaurant. They looked at me and said, listen, could you really enjoy your birthday knowing it wasn't accessible or safe for your siblings? I said, yeah, they don't have to go. I don't want them in danger. I just want to be able to eat the food that I want to eat. My parents said they were very disappointed in me, but fine. They'll book my favorite restaurant. Well, surprise, surprise. They didn't. They booked the family favorite restaurant, the place that's always our family's go-to, and the place that I've never actually found something I'm excited to eat. I just kind of tolerate the food that's there. My parents got everything planned down to a T. They invited the whole family and set up this big giant catering area, and I decided to just not go. It's not fair that even one day a year I can't have food that I want to eat for my birthday? Why can't my parents just take me? Why does it have to be a whole family thing? Like, I don't want my siblings to be in danger or unsafe or uncomfortable. But my gosh, can I not just have one day that's for me? My parents were so mad that I didn't show up after they already paid for everything that they grounded me for a week. They took everything away from me. Car, phone, computer access. And they say that after this week, they're still gonna find some way to punish me because I wasted so much of their money. My grandparents have been defending me, but my parents say that I was rude and they have to teach me to not act that way. So, was I the bad apple? I feel like there are some parents that are going to disagree with me, and that's okay if you do. And I am sure that these parents are trying their best. You know, when you have so many children with so many extra needs, I can only imagine the kind of stress and the carefulness and the cautiousness. Like, I'm sure it's extremely overwhelming and extremely anxiety inducing and all the things. But even as a teacher, I've seen so many times where the kid that doesn't have as many extra needs does sometimes tend to get overlooked. And I can see, like, in their mind, they're trying to justify, like, oh, well, we're doing our best to, like, make a big deal of this kid too because we want to have a really big birthday for them and we're going to invite everyone and we're going to spend all this money on the party. But, like, you're not listening. Your child is telling you, look, I don't really care who comes. I just want to feel like I'm being heard and that this is my favorite food and I want to be able to enjoy it. That's all I want for my birthday. And you're not listening. Like, you're throwing the party that you feel like they should want. Like, I can see where these parents genuinely think that they're doing right by that child by, like, purposely trying to make a fuss over the birthday, but that's not what this child wants. This child just wants to have their favorite food. Why can't, like, you guys and this kid just have, like, a little dinner date yourself? I get that the siblings can't eat there. I understand that. Why, like, if you know that this child is feeling neglected and always feels like they get left out, why can't you just do a parents and kid kind of little dinner thing, you know? It doesn't have to be a whole extended family ordeal. Like, it can just be you three, and then that child will have your undivided attention. They will be at their favorite place. Like, it'll be all about them, and I feel like that's all they really want at the end of the day, you know? And I understand that this restaurant is not accessible for the other siblings, but this birthday isn't about the other siblings. You know, like, we had a story a few weeks ago, and I know it's very different. It has nothing to do with disabilities or anything like that, but there was a family member who was invited, like a little cousin who was invited to a birthday where it was going to be an escape room, and it was going to be a very scary escape room. And the kid's mom was like, oh, well, my son doesn't really like scary things. And the birthday girl's mom was like, okay, well, I guess next time. And we'll do whatever we can to include, like, maybe you can come for cake, maybe you can do whatever, but this is my kid's birthday, and it's going to be about what they want to do, and you can be a part of as much or as little as, you know, as you want, but this is what my kid wants to do for their birthday. And so I know that it's very different when it comes to disabilities and things like that, but I'm saying this as someone who does not have disabled family members. I do not have children of my own. Like, I don't have experience in this, but I just feel like, why is it so difficult to give this child that is all too often, I don't want to say neglected, but, you know, is looked over, doesn't require as much extra attention. Why can't you just make it about them for one night? Like, I feel like my heart really hurts for this kid. And I feel like there's gonna be a lot of parents who say, oh, that's so rude, your parents still spent money on it, blah, 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 blah. But, you know, for me, and, you know, let me know if you think I'm wrong, I feel like this kid should be able to do what they want for their birthday, not what their parents tell them they should want. Why should they be made to go eat food that they don't enjoy? Why should they be made to go and do something that they don't want to do for their birthday? Like, if it were me, I don't think I would not show up. I wouldn't act the same way personally, but I don't necessarily think like, oh, you're a bad kid, how dare you, you're a bad apple for not being forced to go spend your birthday the way that other people want you to spend them. I wouldn't not show up because like I've always been a doormat, you know? Like that's just my personality. Like I've always been a doormat. I've always been a pushover. That's just who I am as a person. That's why my cat rips up all my furniture. Stop it. Stop. I know you're very cute, but you can't rip up all the chairs. Yeah, you can scratch that. That's your scratching post. He's a good girl. But I just don't feel like I can tell a kid, hey, you said you want to do this for your birthday and they completely ignored you. How dare you not go and do the things you don't want to do? So I'm going to go good apple. If you think I'm like incredibly wrong, like I would love to hear your perspective in the comments. I just think it's wrong to be like, we can do whatever you want for your birthday. And it's like, okay, I want to do X, Y, Z. No, we're going to do this instead. Like if you'd rather do nothing and not go, okay, then do nothing and not go, you know? Like, again, I can see where the parents genuinely believe they were doing the right thing. That doesn't mean that I agree that it was the right thing. Like, I can see their point of view, I just don't agree with it. And that's something that I think can be very normal, you know? You can see where other people are coming from and still not agree with them, and still not agree with their mentality. And so that's how I'm feeling for the parents. And again, for OP, we're going good apple. Yeah. And honestly, like to ground him for that, that's just mean. Like that's so mean. I'm so glad that his grandparents are defending him. Bless his heart. That just stinks. Apple number 2. Am I the bad apple for ruining my sister's sobriety? I, 35 female, recently had a daughter after 2.5 years of IVF and infertility issues. During my pregnancy, I found out that my sister, 29, had been lying for years and covered up being an alcoholic. We suspected, but never really had concrete proof until now. I've come to find out she's driven me around town while drunk and while I was 7 months pregnant. She finally went to rehab and has been sober for about a year, and I'm super proud of her. However, she still never acknowledged or apologized for all of the things that she did and caused while she was an alcoholic. She said straight up to us that she doesn't owe anybody an apology for the lies or for the driving people around while drunk or for any of it. My mom also has her own mental issues and refuses to believe that my sister actually had a problem and insists she was just depressed. Despite all of it, I invited everyone over for Christmas for a clean slate. I also invited over my best friend of 15 years who happens to be the godmother of my daughter. Well, when my sister found out that someone else was the godmother and that I wasn't gonna make her a godmother, she flipped out. She told me I was ruining her sobriety, and my daughter is the only reason she got sober in the first place. She fussed me out in the most unhinged yelling match I've ever heard and slammed the door behind her, with my parents following her out. She ruined Christmas morning, my first Christmas with my child. My sister has since refused to talk to me, and my mom is now blaming my husband, saying that he's a bad influence, and if it wasn't for him, my sister would be the godmother of my child, which is just not true. I need someone I can trust and someone to be accountable if something were to ever happen to me, not someone who can't even take accountability for their own actions. I feel like her outburst today just proved that she's not ready for that kind of responsibility. So, was I the bad apple? No. I have a bunch of friends that have kids, okay? And I don't really know like how the whole guardian godparent thing, like I don't know how that works. Think my Aunt Jen is my godmother? Don't tell her I called her that. She would be so offended. I've called her Nana since I was like a baby because I couldn't say Aunt Jen. And then when I started getting older, I tried calling her Aunt Jen and she said, "Excuse me? Ma'am, I'm your Nana and you will call me as such." Okay, I'm sorry, I love you so much. I do love her very much. But I still don't know how all that stuff works. So this might be ignorant. I don't know. But I don't think anyone else can dictate like who your kids' godparents are, right? I feel like if as they grow up, the kids are like, oh, I'm not really comfortable with this family member. That might be a different story, right? But I don't feel like your other family members can just decide like, oh, it's gonna be me. You're gonna trust me with the well-being of your child. Yeah. Like, you can't make that decision for someone else's kid, right? Like, I'm not crazy, right? Am I gaslighting somebody right now? I think that is pretty ridiculous. If I do say so myself. You just, again, you can't make decisions for other people's kids like that. Like, they're not your kids. So I'm going good apple, unless there's a parent in the comment section that can tell me why my childless millennial brain is so wrong. So I hear a snoring cat. I just can't figure out where she is. Hello? I think she's in the doorway. Apple number 3. Am I the bad apple for honoring my son's biological mom? I, 34 female, and my husband, 37 male, have been together for 5 years and married for 3. I was childless until we had to take custody of my husband's son, who's 9, about 4 years ago. He was born with developmental delays and is on the spectrum and currently functions socially and intellectually as a 5-year-old. His mother, we'll call her Tina, has her own share of mental health issues. She essentially abandoned him with us and hasn't contacted us or returned our attempts to contact since she left him. I've never forced my son to call me his mom, but about a year after he came to us, he started calling me mom. My husband's always been on board with it and pretty much lets me raise him however I see fit. However, I've never wanted my son to forget his biological mother. I feel like at the end of the day, he does have a mom out there, and I don't ever want him to feel like I'm trying to take her spot. That's where the problem begins. I've been periodically showing my son photos of his mom whenever I come across them on social media. At first, he had a ton of questions like, where is she? Is she coming back? Like, etc., etc. But after a while, he just kind of says, oh, that's Tina, and continues on with his day. My husband's never been a fan of this practice, but never got really upset about it until the other day when he came into the room while I was showing my son the photos. After our son left the room, my husband said it felt like I was doing more harm than good and that my son needed to accept the fact that I'm his mother and forget about Tina. I disagree. He shouldn't forget about her. We don't know if she'll eventually want a relationship with him, and I want her to have that opportunity if she wants it. So I need to know, am I the bad apple? This is another story where I genuinely see her perspective. I see what she's trying to do. I can tell that she's like just trying to be respectful of the fact that he has a mom and there is a mother out there, and she doesn't want him to feel like she's overstepping, and if the mom ever comes back, like she wants to have a good relationship with her and doesn't want her to think that she was overstepping. Like, I see the intention there. I still wholeheartedly disagree. I don't like the path she's decided to take with it, right? And I will tell you why. And there's a few reasons. First of all, I totally love like the support when he's asking like, oh, who is that? Where is she? Is she coming back? Like, I love the encouraging the questions and providing appropriate answers, but you said he stopped asking, right? So if he's not interested in more knowledge, why are we shoving it down his throat? Like, if he doesn't want to know more about this woman, that should be his call. You know, it's his life. If he's not interested, he's not interested. And you know, it's very possible that one day Tina turns around and is like, oh my gosh, I have a son out there. I would love to get to know him. But at the end of the day, you know, I think his desires with that should be taken into consideration. You know, it's also his call. Does he want a relationship with this woman? You know, depending on how old he is if she ever does resurface him on a relationship, he could decide he's not interested at all because she showed no interest to him as a kid. So I think that like forcing him to know more about her when he doesn't want to, I don't love that. And I can see the intention behind it, but I don't think it's the right move. Secondly, why are you just constantly reminding this kid that A, his biological mom didn't want him, and 2, that like you're not his real mom, you know? Like, again, I see the intention, but it just kind of feels like well, I'm not your real mom. Like, it's this lady, but she didn't want you either. Like, it almost feels like he's being told by 2 moms, I don't want to be your mom, you know? And I know that's not the intention, but you don't want that to become the impact. Impact doesn't always outweigh intention. Sometimes you have the right intentions, but the impact is not what you intended, and it's not a great one. I think we've had a good few examples, and it's all coincidentally. Like, I did not plan it this way, but I think we've had a good few stories this episode that just show that someone really might have the best intentions, but that harmful impact is just outweighing the good intentions, and that happens. And it doesn't mean that someone needs to be punished or yelled at or anything for it, but I think just making someone aware that even though they had the right intentions, the impact, you should be aware of the impact that your actions actually had. And I think that will be a really important conversation for all of these examples. So I'm going crabapple because, again, the intentions are there. She's genuinely trying to do what she thinks is the best thing. She's trying to be respectful and honorable and all the things. I just don't think she's doing it correctly. Like, it's not as good and helpful as she really thinks that it is. So I'm going crabapple with that one. I would love to see her instead take the son's lead. Like, if he starts asking, for sure, support that interest. But if not, then just let him be. If he's decided you're his mom because you're the one that's cared about him and loved him and didn't abandon him, okay. I don't feel like he needs to keep being reminded that someone didn't want him, so. Apple number 4. Am I the bad apple for leaving my mom to be interrogated by police officers? I rent my basement suite out to my mom's best friend's daughter, Sally. I knew her growing up, I used to babysit her, so it's fine. Other than the door to my area, the basement has 2 entrances. It's fully up to code for an in-law suite, and there's no reason for anyone to go through my living space to get there. I went on vacation and I left my door to the basement deadbolted. 3 days into my vacation, I got an alert on my phone saying that there was an unauthorized entrance into my house. Of course, I immediately looked at the video. It was my mom opening the door for Sally's mom. They set off the alarm and immediately started freaking out. Usually if I need my mom to get into my place, I give her a temporary code. It's always the same code because she gets confused by technology, but I always activate it or deactivate it whenever I need it. But I didn't activate it this time because I didn't need her to go to my place. I checked the cameras in the house and there was no fire. I didn't leave a faucet running. There was no emergency, so I wasn't sure why they were in my living area. I don't know if they were just snooping. I honestly have no idea why they felt the need to go to my living area, so this might have been petty, but I just turned my phone on airplane mode and went back to my vacation. About 90 minutes later, a concierge at the resort came and said that I was urgently needed on the phone. I guess my dad knew where to find me and called and said there was an emergency. I got on the phone and it was my mom, so I asked her what the emergency was. Why is she bothering me on vacation? Is my house okay? Was my dad okay? She very bluntly told me to shut up and talk to the cop. Because I turned my phone off and they didn't have the password for my security system, the security company was notified and the police came and they were interrogating my mom for breaking and entering. I talked to them and apologized for wasting their time, and I asked them what emergency was going on that brought my mom to my house. Apparently, my mom and her friend didn't want to sit in the basement area while they were visiting Sally, so my mom agreed to let them use my living area and just assumed it would be their little secret. I asked the security company to please lock my house back up and please take the key that my mother has from her. She started to protest, but I just hung up the phone and went back to my vacation. I enjoyed the rest of my trip, and my dad agreed to pay all the fines and the penalties that came from the false alarm. And now Sally's mom wants her to move out. All because I was so rude and left her and my mother to talk to the police. Fine by me. I don't need a tenant. I was only doing it as a favor. Sally's been apologetic and has been begging me not to kick her out, and she insists that she didn't even know what our moms were up to until the alarm went off. And my mom was pissed that I wasn't available immediately to get them out of trouble, and she's furious that I won't give her back a key to my apartment. She thinks I did it on purpose to teach her a lesson. I don't know how she thinks I forced her to break into my home without permission. So, am I the bad apple for letting them sweat until they were able to get a hold of me with the police officers? And taking my key back since now I can't trust her? Okay, so this is one where, again, I don't think I would have acted the same way, but that doesn't mean that I'm gonna give them bad apple for it. So if it were me, I would have just like handled it immediately for a few reasons. And I know that there's gonna be people out there that are like, no, let him sweat, let him sweat. But like for me, one, if I'm on vacation, I know that they're going to call me. I know that they're eventually gonna try and get a hold of me. Like, I just want it over with, you know, that's me. Two, it's not just the mom's time that they're wasting, it's now the security companies, it's now the police officers. Like for me, I feel like it was like a little bit more drama and a little bit more stretched out than what it was worth. But again, that doesn't mean that I think that they're the bad apple for it, you know? Now the question of, am I wrong for taking the key back? No. Absolutely not. I don't know if I would take the key back, and it's not for any trust reasons at all. I'm just thinking like, when I go out of town, my mom has a way to get into my house because of these fluff nuggets, right? She needs a way to get into my house because she has to feed my cats. So I would not take the key back because I still have that need, right? Now, if this person, OP, doesn't have pets or doesn't have anything that the mom needs to feed, yeah, it makes more sense that like she can take the key back and there's not the same kinds of consequences. The reason that I wouldn't do that is because I don't have that luxury. Vixie likes to eat, you know? Yeah, you're a good girl. And my mom, even if she crossed a boundary, you know, I always feel really guilty when I have to go on longer trips, and she will come over and she'll sit and play with Vixie and Milo for like 30 minutes to an hour each day that I'm gone, which I really appreciate. So even if she broke my trust in that way, I still like heavily rely on her doing that for me. So no, I would not take the key. But again, that doesn't mean that I think that this person is wrong for doing so. Again, just kind of using it as an example of like, we all have different experiences and perspectives, so like we might have different answers to things, and that is okay. I'm kind of teetering a little bit between crab apple and good apple. Not that I think that anything they did was like so wrong that it makes them a bad person, but like I've said this a lot that I hate like modern pranks that just inconvenience other people. And I'm not talking about the moms, I'm genuinely talking about the third parties that got like swept up in, what'd they say, 90 minutes? An hour and a half of their time got wasted because they wanted to teach their mom a lesson. Like, yeah, the mom should have had a lesson taught to her. The mom should have had the key taken. Yes, the mom was completely in the wrong. Both the moms were completely in the wrong. But I don't love how other people had an hour and a half of their time wasted. Like, that annoys me a little bit. Like, I know it's not the same. It gives me the same vibes of those people who like do the pranks that just ruin people's day or inconveniences people or waste their time. Like, I hate those. That's like a pet peeve of mine. And again, I know this is different, but it just vibes to me the same way. Good apple or crab apple? I don't know. Cause like, again, I don't think anything regarding the moms at all makes them a bad apple. Again, I don't think they're wrong at all to be like petty towards them in that way. And it's so funny because I think like my stress and anxiety from this comes way more from the fact that like for the last 2 weeks, so many people have just like either chosen to blatantly misunderstand my words. And I know that it's blatantly misunderstanding because the way that they like talk about how mad they are for my thought process like is so wrong from what I feel like I communicated. Like does not match at all what the intentions were. Or like people just like jump down my throat. So now I'm so self-conscious about like, am I thinking about the other people right? Or am I being too easy on them? Or am I being too hard on them? Like so maybe I will go crab apple, just with the explanation that like, because I've said numerous times that a lot of times when I give someone crab apple, I don't necessarily hate what they did or what they intended to do. I just don't like the way that they went about it. And I have assigned many crab apples on that pretense. So I will give crab apple under the pretense that I don't hate teaching the mom a lesson. I think 100% mom needed to be put in her place. Like that is not her space. She's being very disrespectful to her child's space that they own, that they pay for. Like I don't like that. That's crossing boundaries and I don't like it. But I don't love the way they went about it by like purposefully wasting the security companies and the police officers' time for 90 minutes. You knew that the security company was gonna call the police. You knew that they were gonna come down. Like you did that part on purpose. And again, I'm not saying that the mom didn't need to learn a lesson. I just don't like how they wasted someone else's time to do that. And I genuinely think that people in the comments could sway me to good apple. I'm very confident that people could sway me to good apple. But for now, I'm going to go crab apple until you guys convince me otherwise. Politely though. Okay, let's politely. So I got 2 crab apples and 2 good apples. Again, I think one of those crab apples people can definitely sway me on. But I would love to know if you got something similar to me, if you've got something different than me. Again, I love seeing what you guys have to say about each of these stories down in the comments. And if you want a chance for your story to be featured on Am I the Bad Apple, you can send it to my subreddit, r/Am I the Bad Apple. And for your well wishes today, Tuesday the 20th, it is National Muffin Day and National Love on Your Pet Day. So if you have a little fur ball like this one, and you can't see Milo, y'all know that he gets very camera shy, I hope that you love on them, give them all the nice pets, give them some treats because they deserve it. And if you do not have a love muffin today, that's perfect because it's also National Muffin Day. And I hope that you go to a bakery or the store or something and get you a nice, warm, fresh muffin. If I were to do that, I would go get me a chocolate chip one. What flavor would you get? And as always, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day and hope to see y'all next week. Bye, my lovelies. Mwah!